All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our Tableau webinar. First off, my name is John Vasic, and I'm a partner at BICP. Before we start the presentation, I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you a little about myself and our organization. Personally, I've been involved in reporting and analytics since 2002, and my primary responsibility here at BICP is account management and also putting together and managing all the BI teams that we deploy globally. Our company is a dedicated data analytics and BI services organization, and we're focused on a number of key areas, including big data, SAP HANA and Hadoop, as well as advanced visualization, advanced analytics, and data science. Additionally, we are a certified SAP services partner with very deep relationships within SAP's HANA organization and product development groups. And we're also frequent sponsors and contributors to SAP Insider and ASUG, both regionally and nationally. Currently, we have a team of approximately 70 data scientists, big data, SAP business intelligence, and business analytics employees and consultants. And at this time, we're involved in some of the largest and most complex global business transformations of SAP BI, big data, data analytics in North America, and we're leveraging both on-premises, cloud, and hybrid environments. Our value proposition is a flexible, low-overhead business model that leverages focused teams of highly experienced consultants, which allows us to deliver customized, best-in-breed solutions to meet your business reporting and analytics needs. If you have any questions about our service offerings and capabilities, I invite you to go ahead and contact me at jvasic@bicp.com. You'll also find my personal contact information in the webinar protocol overview and the last page of the presentation itself. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce the presenter for today's webinar, Roshan Bhakta. Roshan, the floor is yours, my friend.
Hi, John. Thank you very much for the introduction. As John Vasic mentioned, my name is Roshan Bhakta. I'm currently a BI consultant at BICP. I have a specialty in data analytics and data visualization. Some of my past industry experience ranges with forensic investigations, telecommunications, banking, mergers and acquisitions, bankruptcies, healthcare, and a few other industries. I attended the University of Georgia, and I'm currently based in Portland, Oregon. Okay, to get started, we're going to kind of go over the webinar protocol a little bit. All participants will be muted. If you have any questions, please submit them to @moderator. All those questions will go to John, and John's going to collect them until the end, and time permitting, we'll get to those questions at the very end of the webinar. And like John mentioned, if there's any questions, there's his email address, jvasic@bicp.com, and feel free to reach out to him at any time. And here we go. Okay, quick agenda. First, we'll talk about some data trends over the last couple of decades, or past couple of years, including some few decades of data transformations and how things have really progressed in the last couple of years. We'll jump into a little bit of why visualization is important, where people kind of value visualization, and where there's actually some room to grow. That'll lead us into our Tableau demonstrations, and I've put together about 5 or 6 different Tableau dashboards where we can kind of show you the different methods and different strategies and just different capabilities of Tableau. And it's really interesting because we have some cool data. We're working with some NFL quarterback data. We're going to use some New York City zip codes. We're going to look at some miles per gallon and oil production in the world. So it's a lot of different industries, and hopefully you can kind of see the different capabilities Tableau has to offer. And just a reminder, if you have any questions, please direct them to @moderator. Okay, so we'll jump into the data trends. So here's a pretty cool visualization I found, and it kind of highlights the data evolution. Clearly, this doesn't encompass all data over the last couple decades, but this kind of gives you an idea. Back in the 70s and 80s, it was a very manual process. We were, using punch cards. You were doing a lot of data entry and just a lot of manual reporting. And things have really changed. As you can tell, over the past, 40, 50 years, data itself has quadrupled in size, and every 10 years or so, there's some kind of new innovation or new method of collecting and reporting that really just changes the game. Like back in the 90s, there was Excel and there was all this, analysis tools, but now in the early 2000s, we started really getting tools that were catered to certain businesses. We started getting more BI tools, predictive modeling tools. The cell phone really provided a huge area for growth in the early 2000s. And now that we're in the 2010s, you can tell, smartphones have really taken over. There's just so much data that's collected on these devices, location data, every click you've ever clicked, what apps you're using, etc. And all this data, it really you should really consider it big data in a sense, because the amount of data that you're collecting from all these different sources is really enormous. And sometimes doing the same analysis that you're used to might not be feasible with these large sums of data. That's where these great tools like R and Tableau and Oracle, SAP, these are great tools that really allow us to work with these huge data sets and really make some sense out of it. So that's kind of where we wanted to talk about, hey, we're at this point now in 2010, 2015, 2016 now. It's hey, things are really changing and visualization is starting to take over. People can really draw some great analysis from these great visualizations we can pull together versus just looking at some Excel spreadsheets and doing a bunch of VLOOKUPs and pivot tables. We can actually make some great appealing charts and allows for some really great, easy and quick decision making. Okay, next we'll go into a little bit more on the decision making aspect of it. So PwC conducted a survey of the Fortune 500 CEO and C-level executives at a lot of the Fortune 500 companies. And some of the results were kind of interesting. For example, about 62% agreed that big data, there's a huge potential at all these firms and companies for big data to have a huge advantage for them. And that's a really big deal when you really think about it. Hey, all these companies are just collecting tons and tons of data, and if it just sits there, what's really the point of that? If there's some analysis that can be done and maybe bring in a business case, there's some advantage to gain there. On to the next point, 40% said that they currently don't have the capabilities to produce these business needs and business visualizations and all these cool things that are really taking over right now. A lot of companies are saying, hey, they just don't have the capability for it. And lastly, about 60% say, hey, there's a major insight that we're missing out on from this huge data set. Pointing to this downwards pie chart, you can tell that, 7% and 13% of major decisions are happening on a daily and weekly basis. Now, if you're getting a report, say on a monthly or a quarterly basis, hey, some of those decisions might be coming a little too late, And what really helps with these great dashboards and these great tools that we're going to talk about is it really allows you to make these decisions faster and just quicker. And overall, it's just a great tool, and we really want to highlight, hey, BICP is here to help. We're here to save the day, and we want to show you how we can take these huge data sets and really turn it into something of value. Okay, so before we jump into the Tableau demonstration, this is a quick dashboard snapshot I wanted to show you guys. So here, I've put together this dashboard for one of our clients, and I've gutted all the information. So it's just, right now it's just raw data, like category 2, 3, 4, product 1, 2. All these shapes down here represent different categories that this X company is selling, and these dots here represent week over week, hey, how are we performing this week compared to last year at this exact same week? And, there's just so much that we can capture. And I really wanted to highlight this specific dashboard snapshot and kind of point out, hey, on just one sheet here, we have over 80 different metrics. So if you really think about it, if you're the manager of, say, the United States for a company, this is a very critical and important piece of information to have, because you can see your whole business in just one snapshot, especially how it's performing compared to last year, what weeks of data we're looking at, what specific cities. Like the limits are just endless. You can add so much on here. You can change so much. Like all the colors can mean something different. And it's just really cool. I just wanted to highlight this and show you, like, hey, on just this one sheet, we have over 80 different metrics. And all of these metrics have some sort of importance to this business. Okay, so a quick little blurb on Tableau here. Tableau works with so many different data sources. There's some data sources I've never even heard of in Tableau that it really blows your mind, like how much Tableau can really take on. Obviously, the most popular ones, Excel, SAP, SQL, Oracle, Teradata, R, Alteryx, like you name it, all the major data sources, Tableau can handle it. And what's great about Tableau is you can do a lot of these table joins and data source joins inside Tableau itself. So a lot of times, people will find themselves doing these long queries in SQL, just to join a few tables together. But when really you can do it all in Tableau, and it's much easier and much quicker in Tableau, just because everything's so visual, everything's based on a click and drag kind of mentality. It really makes it super easy to blend this data and kind of make some cool visuals out of it. So the key thing with Tableau is it gives you the capability to make these dashboards. Now these dashboards can be published online. Like I do pretty regularly. I publish at least 1 or 2 dashboards at least every couple of days for my current client, and it's extremely useful. There's people from all over the country who have access to these dashboards, and they can really draw these decision-making, steps from these dashboards just because they can see how their business is performing. And it's just really easy to update. If they want to change something, they can send me a quick note, and I can easily, quickly change it. And Tableau allows that. It's a great tool that really lets you do all these cool things. One of the things I wanted to point out is kind of cool is Tableau uses the latest location and mapping data. So one of the dashboards we'll get to at the end, it really deals with maps across the world, across the country, etc. And what's cool is Tableau purchases the latest and greatest location data. So a lot of times when you're using zip codes or longitude, latitude dimensions, you have the most accurate location settings because of Tableau. And that's really cool. You'll see what I'm talking about when we get to those dashboards. Okay, so here we're gonna jump over to the Tableau side of things. I really wanted to highlight one simple dashboard. So this is a dashboard that I've created using the most basic of tools here in Tableau. Let me full screen it. Okay, so as you can tell here, the data source is a Microsoft Excel file. It's a spreadsheet. It's really basic. I have these 5 cities. I have these 3 fiscal years, and I have revenue. And as you can tell, whenever we highlight over a certain point, it'll tell me what city it is, what period, and my revenue. So right off the bat, this took maybe about 3 minutes to make. I just dragged on a few things, and I determined a few different colors, and I was off and running. And what's cool is here I can switch between all these different revenue channels I have. Like let's say I have a .com business, I can come here, click .com. You can tell, hey, listen, in FY15 in Chicago, Dallas, and New York, we had a great year for .com sales. What really happened the following year? What's this downward growth? This is something that we can kind of look into, and just off of visuals, you can kind of tell, like, hey, what's growing, what's not growing. Hey, what year? It looks like FY16 might be down in 3 cities, but these other 2 cities are up. So we can kind of jump into that, do some analysis, and it's cool because we can jump between all these revenue channels, and we can really see what's driving our growth, what's driving our downward progression. It really depends on the business, So we can look at all revenue at one time, and we can tell, hey, New York is really on top. They're always number one in everything they do in this for this company, for example. And then we can come down here and look at Chicago. Okay, it looks like, hey, we need to maybe focus some efforts in Chicago, maybe Dallas, move it up here towards these. So that's just kind of an example. You can kind of see how our data is visualized. This is a very high-level example. I wanted to keep it simple, and this is one of the most basic things you can do in Tableau. So jumping back into here, this next data source, or this next dashboard I want to show is using 2 data sources. So if you're familiar with the NFL, you'll know that there's quarterback rating, which really kind of defines how a quarterback is performing throughout a season. and I was able to find some publicly available data on quarterbacks and their quarterback ratings in the NFL. So I was able to collect some of that data from this last year, and I was also able to find the quarterback draft combine statistics. And this is kind of cool. So if you're familiar with the NFL, you know, like, hey, before you even come and play a single down in the NFL, most rookies have to go through the draft combine. And what's cool about the draft combine is this draft combine really records a lot of metrics on athletes. But some of the most important metrics are like the 40-yard dash, or, you know, how high can he jump, or, you know, quarterbacks, how many targets did he miss, how many targets did he make, etc. So there's a lot of cool statistics that get recorded in the draft combine. And I really want to show you this cool kind of dashboard I've created. Let's say like we're a team in the NFL, okay? And as this dashboard loads, it'll be up in a second. Let's say we're a team in the NFL and we're in the market for a new quarterback. Let's say we're the Cleveland Browns, you know. It's an every year ordeal with them. Every year they're looking for a new quarterback. So they finally get fed up. They're like, all right, we need to pull a dashboard together. We need to really pull our analytics skills together and see who's truly the greatest and best quarterback out there. So here on this dashboard, I've kind of combined quarterback rating, which is kind of how they performed, versus their athleticism. So, okay, it's finished loading, so I'm going to full screen this. So here on the left-hand side, we have the quarterback rating, which is the size of their bubbles, versus the vertical. And the vertical, as you notice by the legend, the darker the vertical, the higher these athletes can jump, specifically these quarterbacks can jump. And then on the right-hand side, we have 40-yard dash. And the darker the 40-yard dash, the faster this athlete is. So as you can tell, you know, the darker ones tend to be the better athletes versus the light bubbles, which tend to be, you know, the poorer athletes. And then you can tell by the size of the bubbles, hey, how did they perform as an actual quarterback this year? So like, let's say, hey, we're in the market for a new quarterback. We're the Cleveland Browns, and we have a list of quarterbacks, and we're like, all right, let's go after some of these quarterbacks. Let's take a look at Derek Carr. He had a very good year last year. It looks like he's like one of the faster athletes on this page, and it looks like he's got one of the higher verticals as well. He seems like a great athlete overall. Let's see some of his draft combine stats. And then here on the right, you know, we have some basic stats. He was drafted in the second round. He's this tall. He's 214. You know, he has a 4.7 40-yard dash, which is pretty fast. You know, obviously whatever data is available, like he didn't submit a Wonderlic score, so nothing shows up. You know, he had a pretty good year. He threw a lot of touchdowns, not too many interceptions. That's a pretty good quarterback rating. You know, as we can tell, like Derek Carr might be one of our good options for this coming year. Let's take a look at this other guy. Maybe, I don't know if you've ever heard of him. His name is Tom Brady. He has a pretty good quarterback rating, it looks like. And it also looks like he might not be the fastest guy, or doesn't look like he can jump the highest, which is kind of weird. It's like, all right, this guy's not a great athlete, but why is his quarterback rating so good? Well, I mean, it just shows you, like, athleticism doesn't really correlate with how good of a quarterback they're going to be. And that's kind of what I wanted to show this, you know, quick dashboard. It kind of highlights a lot of different things. We can see, like, hey, Michael Vick, this guy looks like he's a fantastic athlete. He's got the fastest 40-yard dash. He's got one of the highest verticals. Like, but when it comes down to it, his numbers aren't really that great. So it's kind of cool. We can kind of see, like, hey, who are we trying to target this year? Do we really want to pick up some speed? Do we want to pick up a really good arm like Andy Dalton, Tom Brady? These guys have great quarterback ratings, but it looks like they're not so great on the athleticism. So this is kind of a cool little dashboard. You can kind of find what your middle ground is and what exactly you're looking for. Okay, so I'm going to jump back into PowerPoint. Okay, so this next dashboard I'm going to highlight is going to show you some mapping capabilities that I mentioned earlier. So New York City it's one of the biggest markets in the world, you know, and it's cool because they have a lot of data publicly available, like their census data, like, you know, what population is in each zip code, you know, what percent is male, what percent is female, etc. It can really go on, and it's really cool because New York City, you know, a lot of people are familiar with it, and it's easy to kind of visualize. So I kind of made up some data. I made up some product sales. I made up a fictional company. I said, hey, we're going to sell men's apparel. We're going to sell shoes, pants, and shirts. Only these three items, and let's see how we're doing in New York City. So let's say I'm the general manager of New York City for this specific company I just made up. So I'm going to load this dashboard. It'll take a minute or so. And while it loads, I'll kind of give you a background. So on this dashboard, really mapped all these different trade zones that are available in New York City, consumer zones. So like this is considered the Bronx, this area is considered Washington Heights, Harlem, Uptown, Midtown, Village, Soho, Financial District, Brooklyn, Astoria. You know, like obviously there's many, many more other zones in this area, but this is what I really wanted to highlight. So right off the bat, we see, hey, this is FY15, and we're looking at how many units we sold in specifically this New York region. So we can come over here, we can see pants, we're like, all right, we're at about 282K. Yeah, that's a good amount. Let's see, it looks like we're up about 7% compared to the year before, which, you know, this is the kind of metrics you'd like to see, especially if you want your business to grow. You can say, okay, shoes, it's only down 0.3, doesn't really seem like it's too big of a deal, no need to panic yet. Maybe if in next year we're down by like 5%, okay, maybe it's something that we need to look at, you know? And then shirts, like, hey, why are we only growing at 1.2? We've been flooding the market. You know, we've had all these advertisements. What's going on? You know, we can kind of draw some conclusions and really look at some analysis. And really what's cool about this is you see as I scroll over these different regions, it'll tell me exactly what zip code I'm in, what trade zone, and since I'm a men's retailer, I've even included percent male. So let's like jump into one of these. Let's say Uptown 124 zip code. It looks like it's about 46% male. So I'm going to click on this, and down here, all my units sold and my comparison to the previous year will automatically update. And this is kind of the cool benefit about these dashboards is everything's real live time reporting. We can click on it. All this data can be updated pretty instantaneously. And overall, it's really just simple to use. You know, it's nothing too complicated. It's a lot of clicking, and you know, I find that pretty easy to do. So it just updated. So it looks like, hey, pants, we only sold 27 units, but that's up 9% from the previous year. You know, depending on what your goals are or what your forecasting is, you know, that could be good, that could be bad, depends. You know, it looks like overall all three products this year in the specific Uptown neighborhood did really well. Like we're up in all three. You know, we could jump into one more, and you know, you guys can kind of get the gist of it. This is Soho. It looks like we're up in this one as well. You know, maybe this is just a really great company and they're just doing extremely well this year. As you can tell, I'm jumping around. It's pretty easy to jump around in this tool. Like, okay, here, we found one right here. Financial District. It looks like they're down all across the board. Maybe people in Financial District aren't really buying these casual clothes. They're looking for more business clothes or whatever the reason may be, you know? So it's cool. We can kind of see, we can jump around. Great legend. All these colors can be edited. It's very vibrant. This map can be edited. And there's just so much that you can do, and it's really cool. And it's always up to date, like I said. And I think that's one of the best parts about Tableau. It's really great for mapping. Okay, these last two dashboards I want to show you are a little different. So they're both connected to a Tableau server. And when I say Tableau server, I mean Tableau makes these servers with publicly available data available to the public. Whoever wants to use it can use it, kind of thing. So I've created one using miles per gallon for vehicles and comparing different vehicles over different sizes of their engines, and we'll go into that one first. Okay. So here on this dashboard, you can tell there's well over 30 different car makes. So it ranges from Acura, you know, Honda, Nissan, Toyota, you name it. Like all these major car brands are on this list. And what's cool is that these cars are classified into different subcategories based on, like, you know, usually the cylinder, like how many cylinders there are, you know, how big the car is, like how much towing it can handle, etc. There's so many different ways that cars can be identified. So what's cool about this is here we've classified all these cars into one of these groups here, and we can quickly jump into, like, let's say Ford. If we want to look at just Ford cars, I don't know if you noticed, but only the Ford cars got highlighted on this chart. So if I unclick Ford, okay, it's kind of a mess. Everything looks kind of jumbled. Let's look at just Ford. We can come here. We can say, hey, this looks like it's an 8-cylinder car. It's a subcompact, and it's a premium, but it looks like it's only getting 16 miles per gallon. that might not be what we're looking for. So let's kind of create a situation here. Let's say I'm a used car dealership, and in my budget, I've allowed myself to buy 30 new cars for this upcoming quarter. I would find a tool like this very useful. Like, for example, if gas prices continue to go down, obviously some of these cars that have great gas mileage, people might not be looking at those. They might start looking at some of the more luxurious ones just because gas prices are down, etc. We can come and we can look, hey, it looks like this Mercedes-Benz right here. It's a mid-sized wagon. It's only getting 15 miles per gallon, but it's an 8-cylinder and it's a Mercedes. Like, hey, that might be a good car to add on to our budget. Maybe we can make some space for that. It's kind of cool. So, we can come here, we can compare, like, hey, we've noticed that Lexus has been selling really great. Like, Lexus is on the move. It's always doing well. Let's compare that to Hyundai. Hyundai is on the up and coming. So I've selected both Hyundai and Lexus. We can tell, like, hey, this one right here, it looks like it's a Lexus, the premium, and it gets pretty good gas mileage, compared to one of these down here. It looks like this is a Lexus premium, and it's a little on the downward side of miles per gallon. And we can kind of look around, like, hey, Hyundai looks like it's like right in the middle, and it looks like it's getting pretty good gas mileage to be considered a large car. So, there's different things as a used car dealership. I can come in here and I can look at I can look at this data in so many different ways, just looking at just large cars. I can tell, hey, these are the only makes that even have large cars. Like, I'm not going to go to Land Rover or Lamborghini and look for an extremely large car because all these other makes are clearly the ones I'd want to focus on. So it's kind of cool. We can see, like, hey, we can really pinpoint what are the best cars out there. If we're really interested in an SUV with the best gas mileage, we might have to go get a Ford that's a 4-cylinder, and it gets 24.5 miles per gallon. That's fantastic, So there's a lot of different ways you can cut this data. You can look at it. It all depends on your need, of course. If we had the budget for 30 cars, I'd probably, pick up 20 cars in the good miles per gallon and then pick up 10 that are like in the not so great just because, hey, gas prices are low. I think they'll probably sell this year. It all depends on your business, right? So what I wanted to highlight about this one is the data source as well. So this is connected to a server right now. Tableau has these publicly available servers, and like I said earlier, they allow you to kind of like mess around with this data, play around with it. It's free, whatever kind of data to them. And it's cool because if you actually buy space on Tableau's server, you can then upload your company's data to the secured server, and you can conduct similar analysis all around the country or all around the world, on the same data source, which is really great, having 40, 50 people working all with the same data source. You don't have to worry about, data disconnects, like, hey, your numbers are looking off from my numbers, but because we're all using the same numbers. So that's kind of a cool thing with these Tableau servers. Jumping back in to PowerPoint, this last dashboard I want to highlight is showing oil production around the world. And again, this is kind of going into the mapping side of things, and I kind of wanted to show you the Tableau server side of things. So it's kind of like the granddaddy of all these dashboards. Here we go. So here we have a simple dashboard. It's saying where is oil produced, and again, this is connected to Tableau server. Tableau server currently has data going from 2011 all the way back to 1980. So we'll start somewhere in the middle. Let's say like 90, 91. Okay, so we're going to jump into 1991. Who are the real leaders in the world in oil production? Well, if we come over here to our chart and our map, we can say, hey, these blue countries are the clear leaders. These three out here, we can see it here. These guys are producing over 9,000 barrels of oil in a day, which is truly astounding considering, where oil has come and considering how much all these other countries are producing. So you can say, hey, let's jump in, let's check out the Russian Federation. Back then, that's probably what it was called. So we can quickly highlight on the map, where is the Russian Federation? Okay, if you don't know, great tools here, And what's cool about this map is on this left side, you can see a line chart kind of showing you how production has changed over the years. Saudi Arabia, they had a really good run right here in the early 70s up until like right about the 80s, and then bam, something happened in the 80s where they really went down. But it looks like they're coming right back up, and in fact, they're coming back stronger than ever, and they're producing more and more as time has passed by. So let's kind of go to like what the latest data data is. This is about 4 years old, 4 or 5 year old data, and we can kind of see like, hey, the U.S. has kind of gone down a little bit. We were up there earlier, and now we're like, we're definitely third, whereas before it was really close, And what's cool is like we can really jump into this map and like highlight anything we want to highlight, and it's kind of cool. Like if we want to come and look at some of these African countries, we can just come here and select this tool and get this whole region mapped out. Like, if I want to look at Algeria, click on Algeria. We can tell how many thousands of barrels of oil were produced in that year, daily in that year. It's kind of cool. I think this has a lot of information, and it really highlights so much because we have mapping capabilities, we have overtime charts, we have total production, we have all these drop downs. So there's just so many options and so many different things that we can change on this one dashboard. And if you think about it, there's so much data that's just captured in one visual, one interactive visual, and it's kind of cool. We can. I think it's really interesting because as a visual person, I'm from this new generation where things are like I have to see it in front of me kind of to believe it, and it's interesting. I really find these visuals to be compelling and it feel like they're informative. You can definitely tell what regions of the world here are producing oil. Which can tell who's not producing oil. It's interesting, especially from a business who has some kind of stake in this industry. These are very useful dashboards. So jumping back in, sorry about that. Kind of, we can kind of cover some questions now at this point. If I move too fast, please let me know. Like, if I have any questions, direct them to @moderator. John, are you on the line?
I sure am, Roshan. And hey, great job. And to the audience, we're now going to go ahead and enter the Q&A portion of the webinar. We have about 8 minutes left, and I do have a couple of questions. And please remember to direct any additional questions you may have to @moderator in the list of the current participants. So, Roshan, question number 1. Can dashboards be set to automatically update, say, daily and or weekly?
Yeah, great question, John. So what's great about these dashboards is it really allows so much flexibility. You can set it on a schedule. You can say, hey, we want it to tap into this server at exactly 10 a.m. every Sunday, and I want this report to be generated every 2 days from there on out, And it's kind of cool because Tableau really allows so much flexibility. You can almost limit it or tell it to run at any time of the day. However you want your reports run, however often you want it refreshed, it's really up to you at that point. And it kind of depends on the size of the data at the same time. If you're working with huge sets of data, maybe it's not smart to update your dashboards once an hour. Maybe you want to do something once a day. Maybe you have someone kind of running validation checks at the same time. So it's kind of cool. It's interesting, and Tableau has a lot of flexibility because, you can kind of do whatever you want to, update it whenever, and share it to whoever you want to.
Perfect. Thanks, Roshan.
Yep.
Question number 2. Can more than one person build dashboards from the same data source?
Yeah, so I kind of touched on this a little earlier, and when I said, let's say we have some space on the Tableau server. I'm a company, and I've purchased some Tableau. I've purchased a Tableau license that automatically gives you some space on their server, and with that capability, you're able to upload these large sets of data to Tableau's server. And once it's on Tableau's server, you can access that anywhere in the world. So someone in India, someone in China, someone in Germany, here in the U.S., wherever you are in the world, you can theoretically be working on the same data set and creating similar dashboards or creating the same kind of dashboards. It's really up to you what your needs are. And what's cool about that is it really allows multiple people to tap into the same data source. So your data is, you can trust your data. You don't have to worry about data integrity issues, because you know that everything's coming from the same source. If you see the same issue across the whole world, you can go back and say, hey, okay, we're all using the same data source. The issue must be with the data. You know, we can it's easier to pinpoint. And overall, I think if you're a global company, it's a great part of Tableau is the fact that anyone can work on these dashboards across the world.
Terrific. And you know, it looks like we're kind of coming up against the end of the call here, so I'm going to do one more question. Can Tableau dashboards be exported and included on PowerPoints?
Okay, so this is kind of the one tricky part about Tableau, and I'm glad you brought this up. So Tableau, it's a great tool. You know, I've shown you all these great dashboards you can build, and what's cool is you can really publish these dashboards online. But one of the things that Tableau does not allow you to do is export these dashboards and kind of put them on other applications. Just because PowerPoint or Word or PDFs, whatever, they don't have the capabilities to have these interactive tools within them. Now, what's cool about Tableau is they've actually included in their software sort of a PowerPoint-esque tool where you can kind of say, hey, I want to create a presentation in Tableau, and it will make it actually very PowerPoint-like. So, you know, if you're set on making a PowerPoint, what's cool about Tableau is you can actually create the whole presentation in Tableau. You can put slides, you can do animations, and this way you're actually using your real-life dashboards in a presentation mode, similar to what PowerPoint is. You know, and I could have done that today, but today, you know, for the sake of this webinar, I really wanted to keep things separate and not overpower the audience on the whole Tableau capabilities, you know. But there's definitely some presentation tools within Tableau that you can make some great visuals and these PowerPoints type presentations. I hope that answered your question too.
You know what? I think you did a great job, my friend. So, you know, we at BICP, we'd like to thank you, all of you, for your time today. If you have any follow-up questions, please do not hesitate to reach me at jvasic@bicp.com. And with that, have a great afternoon.
Thank you.